I've covered, I don't know, Brexit for quite a well, feels like a long time. Um, but in reality, it's not been really that long. It's always been like 5 or 6 years. And if you really think about it, that's not actually a long time. But now we are, shall we say, in Brexit proper, and it's barely getting to the end of the first year. And already businesses are up in arms about the Brexit deal that Johnson signed, the one that was meant to be oven ready. But of course, what this truly was of course, was the hardcore Brexiteers getting their essentially hard Brexit done. That's what it was. And a lot of businesses here in the UK didn't want that. They wanted to remain in the single market and customs union. Like that was their goal, ultimately, at the end of the day. And even now, lots of businesses throughout Britain are like, we want all this stuff we had practically when we were in the single market. And we'll get to some of these in a moment. And it gets even worse when you remember the fact that if we did go for like a renegotiation of the deal, the EU has said we're not going to renegotiate it. We're not open to you cherry picking from the single market. You are either in it or you're out of it. And that's what they've said and laid down the law on. And sooner or later, I've said this before, you will know the barometer of when Britain will end up rejoining, is when you will start to see Conservatives start to call for rejoining the single market and customs union. And sooner or later that will happen, because a lot of the, of course, Conservative Party donors, and even the reason why we joined back in the beginnings of the EU in the first place, were because of British businesses being cut out of the European market. The exact same position has now happened then, and now British businesses are starting to go, hey, we want back in. Or, well, first of all, they're going to go, let's try and, quote, fix this deal. And then they're going to go, well, if we can't fix the deal, let's just rejoin it. Because I'll tell you what, it not only solves a lot of problems for the British industries, but it also, with a literal stroke of a pen, solves the situation over in Northern Ireland instantly. Instantly. No longer becomes an issue. So let's jump into this article then. So, but before we do that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link where you can buy me a coffee. And thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel that way. It is very much appreciated. So let's jump into this. So this comes from The Independent. The title is "Fix the Broken Brexit Trade Deal to Save Jobs, Cross-Party Commission Tells Boris Johnson." So MPs and business leaders are proposing a raft of changes to try and ease the pain from Boris Johnson's broken Brexit trade deal in the wake of evidence from public unhappiness with it. And there is, as we'll see later, there is a lot of public unhappiness with it, a massive raft of public unhappiness. The food import checks must be streamlined and the cost and complexity of obtaining visas eased, and a new body set up to try and protect food standards, and the report tells ministers. Which is going to be very interesting, because there is meant to, of course, under DEFRA, they are meant to be the ones protecting food standards. But of course, when we were in the EU, there was a very specific body for protecting food standards. And indeed, yes, there is the Food Standards Agency, but they are, again, aligned under DEFRA. They're not a independent body that protects food standards. So, again, this is one of those interesting things of, well, we told you we would lose all these bodies. And again, most of them haven't been replaced yet. So there's a lot of area regulations that are meant to be checked by these bodies, but they're not being checked because they were European bodies, and now those technically no longer exist or have been folded into departments which do not have the personnel to go out and physically perform some of these checks. So that's going to be something that we're probably going to be hearing probably maybe next year, potentially, but we'll see. So the Cross-Party UK Trade and Business Commission, which gathered evidence from expert witnesses, was set up after the government abolished the Commons Committee scrutinising the Brexit fallout. And again, makes sense for the government, because you do not want a committee scrutinising this Brexit fallout, because I'll tell you now, they'd be kicking, they'd be giving a good kicking to Boris Johnson left, right, and centre. That's the last thing the government wanted, so of course it had to go. It says that it found no appetite for the widespread deregulation or even divergence from EU rules, long hailed as a key Brexit benefit of EU withdrawal by the Prime Minister and, of course, David Frost, his Brexit minister. We've had this literally just last week of David Frost coming out and saying, oh, yes, we're going to do all these deregulations and divergence, which are going to help businesses and help us, build back better. No one wants them. No one wants the deregulation or even to diverge from EU rules, because that will then make it difficult for them to trade with their biggest trading partners, which very often for most of these companies are the EU. So instead, the alarm was raised over the barriers faced by businesses losing out to international competitors and the burden on small firms and freelance workers, and the risk of irrevocable damage to UK farming. Meanwhile, its polling found that 53% of people think the Christmas Eve deal had created more problems than it has solved, with just 15% thinking that it is overall benefits. The evidence we've heard from dozens of experts and businesses confirms that this deal is completely broken and will continue to create problems to our supply chain and cost jobs and money in the UK. Hilary Benn, the Labour MP who jointly leads the commission. His study recommendations are, get ready for this, relaunching and trying to simplify the Brexit Support Fund after it paid out less than 1/3 of the 20 million allocated to it. Again, quite a scandal, to be honest. Because it was, as most businesses turned out and said, it was archaic. They had no idea what they were meant to do. And even the government sheet asking questions didn't really come up and sort it out. Digitizing checks for food exporters to end the system inferior to, quote, less cumbersome processes in EU countries. The easiest thing to do would just be to join the single market customs union that would solve it instantly. But we'll get there eventually, I'm sure we will. Like I say, the penny will drop. Reducing the cost and complexities of visas, which the cost for skilled workers and academics coming to the UK is roughly 5 times higher than competitors, and to establish a new authority to protect food standards in a new trade deals, after criticising the government's confusion over whether they will be safeguarded. Mr. Spen said, we are calling on the government to now work with businesses and our European neighbours to implement these very reasonable improvements to their deal and measures to support UK firms. The report comes as the growing pressure on ministers to try and plug the gaps in the skeleton deal, with Labour backing a new agreement to end the crisis facing touring musicians. However, the mooted UK-EU Partnership Council has only actually ever met once, and the two sides are instead locked in a very bitter battle over the Northern Ireland Protocol. And again, that protocol is being made more problems by us because we are the ones who do not want to seem to, well, make it work. The commission, of course, is co-led by the head of the Virgin Group, Peter Norris, and its members include figures from the Trafalgar Entertainment, the chemical company BFSA, and the Northern Ireland Retail Consortium. The support is provided for Best for Britain Internationalist Group, whose chief executive, Naomi Smith, appealed for a new approach from the new Look cabinet. The polls show that the British public can even see that the government's Brexit deal for what it is, a very insufficient, self-sabotaging agreement that is causing significant problems for British businesses, the economy, and jobs, she said. And it is causing huge problems. And of course, will it be re-signed? I don't know. Any attempts to try and, of course, ease, shall we say, these problems lie in, of course, the EU-UK Partnership Board. But of course, it's only ever met once because, again, Frost is far more interested, shall we say, in antagonising the EU over the Northern Ireland Protocol. That's why he was put there, not to make things better for the deal or to we say, solve these problems, because then people might realise that, oh, working with the EU has its benefits. And if working with the EU have its benefits, then why don't we work with them on a closer scale, meaning, again, rejoining the single market and customs union? As I've said and preached 100 times before, the issues that we are currently having and facing in Northern Ireland could literally be signed and solved with a stroke of a pen by Boris Johnson rejoining the single market and customs union. That is simple. And Europe would be fine with that. Anyone who says otherwise, I'm sorry, you haven't been listening to your groups, because they ultimately would welcome back Britain into those two organisations. And of course, eventually we'd end up rejoining the EU, probably lock, stock and barrel. Obviously joining Schengen, probably joining the Euro, and probably joining anything else potentially as well. So, of course, as always, thank you very much for watching, and thank you. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all